Good afternoon, and welcome to Northern Kentucky University's 2020 Fall Convocation. I'm Dave Thompson, Associate Professor of Electronic Media and Broadcasting in the College of Informatics. The Fall Convocation is an annual tradition that celebrates the start of the new academic year. We'd like to officially welcome our newest faculty and staff members who have joined the NKU family since last August's convocation. We'd also like to take this opportunity to thank NKU's faculty and staff for their hard work and dedication, particularly over these last few months. A special thank you to those members of the various COVID-19 work groups who have been working tirelessly to prepare our campus for the fall semester. Due to the ongoing pandemic, this year's convocation will be a little different than our traditional meeting on campus. However, we still have the opportunity to gather virtually, to look back over how far we've come together during these unprecedented times, and to look ahead to the coming year where we will continue working to serve our students and the community. In today's presentation, we'll celebrate our award-winning faculty and staff, and we'll take a look back on the previous academic year. We'll also look ahead to the coming year, including remarks from our new Student Government Association president, and President Vidya will share our collective direction for NKU moving forward. Today's convocation will conclude, as always, with our alma mater. To begin, please welcome the Voyager Jazz Ensemble under the direction of Professor William Bryan Hogg for a pre-recorded performance of our national anthem. And now, please welcome Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs, Sue Ott Rollins.
Thank you to Professor Hogg and the Voyager Jazz Ensemble for that wonderful performance. We have many new faculty and staff who have joined the university since our last convocation. I would usually ask you to stand and be recognized, but because of current circumstances, please know that we are happy to have you here and send our warmest greetings. Over the past year, we have had the opportunity to recognize the outstanding achievements of many NKU staff and faculty. The Regents Distinguished Service Award recognizes individual staff employees who have made exemplary contributions to the growth, image, or efficient operations of the university. Last spring, 3 individuals were recognized with the Regent's Distinguished Service Award. Congratulations to the 2020 recipients, Michelle Kay, David McKnight, and Lisa McElfresh, and thank you for your service. During our annual Academic Affairs Faculty and Staff Honors and Awards ceremony in April, we recognized 16 faculty and staff members and 4 units from Academic Affairs with awards in 14 different categories. We received 63 nominations for our award programs, and the quality of those nominees was outstanding. Therefore, receiving one of these awards represents a great honor. The recipients of these awards have made extraordinary contributions to NKU and have played an important role in the success of our students. I would like to recognize and congratulate again all faculty, staff, and academic units who received Academic Affairs honors and awards. Thank you all. The Outstanding Professor Award has been in place since 1970. The award was endowed and retitled in 1996 as the Frank Sinton Milburn Outstanding Professor Award as a result of a gift from Dr. Carol Swartz in memory of her husband, Frank Sinton Milburn, a Burlington inventor who devoted his life to helping others turn their ideas into realities. The Frank Sinton Milburn Outstanding Professor Award honors a faculty member who has demonstrated excellence in teaching, scholarship, and service over her or his career. This year's honoree is Dr. Mark Barget. Dr. Barget, Regents Professor of Psychological Science, started at NKU 20 years ago and has since had a dramatic impact. Mark is the director of the interdisciplinary minor in neuroscience. He earned his PhD in experimental psychology from the University of Missouri, St. Louis in 1991 and did postdoctoral research in neuropharmacology at the Washington University School of Medicine. Dr. Barget teaches courses in the area of biopsychology and psychopharmacology. Mark has excelled as both a teacher and researcher, and he has contributed greatly to the university, to his profession, and to the region. His teaching abilities, prolific and timely research program, and efforts to ensure the success of other faculty members make Mark the ideal recipient for this award. Given our new strategic framework, Mark embodies the spirit of success by design. He has provided numerous students the opportunity to engage in experiential learning, thus better preparing them for careers after graduating from NKU. The success of his students has always been his focus, and yet he continues to stand out in his research and exemplary service to the university. Congratulations, Mark.
Greetings, colleagues and friends of NKU. First, I want to thank the President and Provost for giving me this opportunity to make a few remarks and reflect on why I think I'm here today. Several deans ago, I was sitting in an open forum for a perfectly nice person who aspired to become Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. In the session, a faculty member rose and asked the following intrepid question: who are the 3 most important constituencies served by the Dean? I don't recall what the candidate's answer was, or if the person even became our Dean. What I do remember was trying to place myself in the candidate's shoes and wondering how I would respond. Sometime later, a simple answer came to me, an answer that perhaps applies to any NKU employee. Number 1, students. Number 2, students. Number 3, students. Since my first days on campus in August 2000, I have been fortunate to be part of NKU, and I remain profoundly grateful for the unselfish and steadfast support of many staff, administrators, and faculty, including those from the greatest department of all time, namely my own, as well as folks from outside of NKU, who have inspired and enabled me to become the best teacher, scholar, and university citizen that I can be. But I am always mindful of why I'm here, the students. I am touched, on a daily basis, in ways large and small, in the classroom, the lab, or some other venue, students seek me out and trust me to enrich their path forward towards professional, intellectual, and personal goals. Without equal, the greatest testament to my work at NKU comes when a student simply rates, writes, or says, "I learned something from Mark." It is an honor to be selected for the Frank Sinton Milburn Outstanding Professor Award, especially since it represents one of the many ways in which Dr. Carol Swartz Milburn has dedicated herself to student learning and achievement at NKU. It is also meaningful to me to have been nominated for this award by my colleague, Dr. Justin Yates, since I've had the good fortune to serve as his mentor. Justin's accomplishments in his relatively short time here at NKU are unprecedented, and his nomination of me was award enough. Additionally, I am grateful that my nomination was supported by my chair, Dr. Cecile Marchinsky, and my dean, Dr. Diana McGill, since they are both exemplars of scholarship, dedication to student success, and collegiality in ways that we should all aspire to emulate. I received word that I'd won the Milburn Award in early April of this year. 1 month later, my youngest child, Jordan, graduated magna cum laude from the College of Informatics with a degree in electronic media and broadcasting. At the very same time, their older brother, Will, graduated cum laude from Chase Law after receiving a degree in history from NKU in 2017. I mention them not only out of fatherly pride, but to make the point that their success as students and growth as individuals bear the indelible marks of several outstanding professors, people like Rachel Banks, John Bickers, John Gibson, and Jonathan Reynolds, to name a few. So, for today, I'm considered an outstanding professor, but I am keenly aware that I am among hundreds of outstanding faculty at NKU, not to mention many outstanding staff and administrators who, even in the midst of the relentless challenges we've experienced over the past several months, persevere and endeavor to offer outstanding learning experiences to every Jordan or Will who comes their way. I would not be here today without the encouragement, support, and love of my late parents, my magnificent siblings, Diane, Mickey, Mike, Tim, and Dave, the 3 best children in the world, Caleb, Will, and Jordan, and my best friend and wife, Nancy. I love you all very much, and I'm so blessed that you're part of my life. Thanks again to my colleagues for this award and for all you do for our students. Have a great semester.
I wish you luck as you head out into this world to do new and exciting things. And I ask that you please never forget the family and friends who helped you become the talented individuals you are today. And please know that NKU will always be home for you.
Please welcome Student Government Association President and Student Regent Lauren Goodwin. Lauren is currently pursuing a degree in criminal justice with minors in pre-law and organizational leadership. She also serves as the student specialist for NKU's Safety and Emergency Management Department and as a leadership mentor, part of the Northern Kentucky Leadership Institute.
Hello, I'm Lauren Goodwin, and I'm the Student Body President and Student Regent. I know it has been an exhausting 6 months for our entire NKU family. This fall semester does not look like we would have expected it to a year ago. While this may not be ideal in some aspects, in others it has been an amazing opportunity for positive change and growth. I'm excited to see the nationwide call for equality and its impact. I have seen many of our students, faculty, and staff using their time to better educate themselves and their peers and preparing to carry this momentum into the school year. All of this in the midst of a global pandemic, and our community has banded together in inspiring ways. We have become stronger, both individually and as a whole. We have been called upon to build a better, more equitable institution. This year, I look forward to doing this work with students, faculty, staff, and community partners to make our university an even better place to call home. Who better to welcome us home and help lead us to be the institution we deserve than our president? That's why I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Vaidya.
And now, please welcome Dr. Ashish Vaidya, President of Northern Kentucky University.
Good afternoon, and welcome to a virtual start of fall semester 2020. While we try to preserve many traditions of our usual convocation, greetings by Provost Stuart Rowlands, the rendering of the national anthem, and the inspiring remarks of our 2020 Frank Sinton Milburn Outstanding Professor, welcome by the SGA President, and the familiar voice of Dave Thompson, not seeing many of you in person is both strange and disappointing. Don't get me wrong, I'm so pleased that the IT team, thank you Tracy, Bill, and Travis who are here, masked and socially distanced to make sure nothing goes wrong. Later this week, I will get a chance to welcome our new faculty, also via Zoom, and I will remind them that they are joining an impressive group of individuals committed to positively transforming our students and the region. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to the new staff joining us this year. Lauren, congratulations on being elected Student Government President. I appreciate your words about this university, the call for a more equitable NKU, and for the tremendous service you have committed to on behalf of your fellow students. Professor Barget, congratulations on being named the Frank Sinton Milburn Outstanding Professor, and thank you for your thoughtful remarks. Your point that the three most important constituents we serve are students, students, and students is spot on. The Outstanding Professor Award is a very well-deserved honor, and you are now part of an elite group of faculty who have been recognized for outstanding achievement across the full spectrum of the NKU mission. As we consider service to our university, let me recognize some individuals who contribute to our university in particularly important ways, the members of our governing board of regents. Our board chair, Lee Shaban, vice chair of the board, Andre Ward, board secretary, Norman Damaris, Michael Bernowski, our faculty regent, Dave Bauer, our staff regent, Rich Bainey, Terry Mann, and a special thank you for your service on the board, Dennis Repenning, Gregory Shumate, and of course, student regent, Lauren Goodwin. A special welcome to Chief Diversity and Equity Inclusion Officer Darrell Peel, Ginny Fair, the Dean of the College of Education, and Roy Gifford, Assistant Vice President for Marketing and Communications to the Norse family. As I begin my third year as your president, I am deeply grateful for the continued support and commitment of the entire NKU community this past year. I want to especially acknowledge the hard work of our faculty and staff over the course of the past 5 months. from course redesign to IT support to readying the campus for our return. A special thank you to the COVID preparedness team and the work groups associated with it who have met throughout the summer to prepare for our return. We appreciate and thank you for your efforts. You know, last year, I reminded you that the 1-year anniversary was a paper anniversary. I also gave you many ideas for gifts: graders' gift certificates, tickets for the Western and Southern Open. I think you misunderstood my request. I received a lot of paper, all right, in the form of memos, forms, requisitions, and policies for review and approval. So let's try this again. The 2-year anniversary is a cloth anniversary. So here are some suggestions: a Norse polo, Jerry Garcia ties, preferably with a little black and gold in them, or a George Kittle San Francisco 49er jersey. The theme of this year's convocation is reflection, recommitment, and renewal. We are in the midst of a confluence of crises, a global pandemic unlike anything seen in over 100 years, a resulting economic recession unlike anything since the Great Depression, and more recently, a social crisis that has reached a tipping point caused by the painful and lethal effects of systemic racism. Just as the Spanish flu and the Great Depression dramatically changed the labor market, education, and social institutions, what we're experiencing will reshape the future of work, health, and education. The impact on peoples across the globe and right here at home, our students, faculty, and staff, has been both profound and heart-wrenching. Let us take a moment and hear the voices of our campus community as we reflect on the events that have transpired over the past 5 months.
It's been bad, and it's kind of messed up our mental health. And also, I know it affected part of our spring semester, last semester, and we had to switch to online, and that was like a whole struggle for both faculties and the students. But we've been getting the hang of it, and I think everyone is starting to adjust to this situation, but at the same time, it's still like much of a challenge.
Thankfully, I'm lucky enough to say that I have not been deeply affected on a personal level by any of these crises. From a mental standpoint, I believe that everyone has suffered during these past couple months. From the uncertainty that the pandemic has created in our day-to-day lives and everything regarding our future, to the social unrest over the racism in this country, it has definitely been a lot to take in at one time. As the pandemic continues, we have to keep on doing the right thing and following all the guidelines presented to make sure we can come back to school in a safe manner in the new normal. And as far as the social unrest that the country is going through, we as students have the responsibility to let our voices be heard, fight for what is right, and be the leaders for change for a more just and equal world.
COVID-19 and everything going on with our world today with social and racial injustice has taken a huge toll on everyone mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I think that coming back to campus is something that I'm really excited to do, just for getting the experience that I would like. And I'm so excited for all of the freshmen to come back and experience NKU for all of the magic that it has, but just being safe and socially distancing at the same time.
Events of the past few months, from the global pandemic, economic recession, and unjust deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other members of the Black community, have made a significant impact on my health and well-being. As an extroverted individual, I've missed being physically here on campus, but more so I've missed my students. It's been a real struggle to see how all these events have made an impact on their lives. But at the same time, our students are so courageous and so resilient. While navigating all these situations, protesting for Black Lives Matter and trans Black Lives Matter, working multiple jobs, and trying to just navigate their unique situations. They've been truly resilient, and they've handled this all with a style and grace of their own. So while I've struggled, at the same time I have hope. I know that the work that we do here on campus is critically important, not only for our students, but for the entire Commonwealth and beyond.
I find in terms of my own health and well-being that at times I have a heightened sense of physical and emotional vulnerability. Yet in the next moment, a heightened sense of resiliency. I've increased intentional effort to maintain physical health and well-being, hence the fitness tracker in tow. And I truly understand the connection between the human spirit. When I'm better, you're better. When you're better, I'm better. I understand that I reap the benefits of a better health and well-being when I am helping others navigate these challenging times. There's an old African proverb, smooth seas do not make for skillful sailors. So I embrace the journey of these challenging times, for on the other side emerges a better me, a better you, a better us.
When looking back at the pandemic, which is a very interesting thing to do, the only way to describe it is truly grief, I would say on a national and personal level. Truly too complex of an emotional storm to kind of pin down to one exact thing. I know for me, it felt like my life was going very well. I'd done almost my goals that I had set out to when I came to NKU as a freshman in 2018. In that 2-year span, it felt like life was going great at that point. To have all of that taken away as leadership opportunities, job opportunities, leadership roles, and not only that, but the fact that I was living on campus as an RA, to come back to Westchester, Ohio, and living in my parents' basement, a big change in how I identified myself and where I felt like I was supposed to be. Not only that, took me away from a lot of my identity in that fact, but also taking away my forms of leisure and escapes from my world stresses, which would be my hobbies of weightlifting and my entertainment, and basketball, NBA, and whatnot. So it really felt like an entire seas of a life to kind of regather and consider everything that was happening at that time.
I would say that systemic racism impacts everyone's lived experience every day, and that it has a propensity to compromise our institution if not continuously addressed by everyone taking a firm stand against it. In the last 6 months, we've seen a visible and deliberate shift that provides an opportunity for a student-centered campus like NKU to embrace the very best of our institution's mission and goals, providing access for all of our students, supporting completion of our students' academic endeavors, and providing an engaged campus community that includes our alumni, as well as regional commerce, but also internationally. I feel strongly that now is a great time to be at NKU.
Recent events have made me to think about how I have survived all these years. And I realize that I have survived based on fear. I live in fear. I'm usually so terrified when a cop drives behind me, not because I have done anything wrong, but because I'm afraid I may not get a chance to explain myself before I'm dead. And I have never even had a moving violation in my life. I live in fear so much that I cannot take a walk on my own without hauling my 3- and 5-year-old daughters to walk with me, because walking with them gives me legitimacy. Working with them makes me to be seen as somebody that is not dangerous, somebody who is not a super predator. It is a shame that I should use my daughters to protect myself when I'm walking, but it is better to use them to protect myself than to leave them fatherless. That is a fear I live in. Now, I cannot blame anybody for how I feel. However, I do know that how I feel is not out of the vacuum. It is a product of things that are happening around me. It is a product of the narrative. How do I change that? How do I change how somebody sees me? I don't know, but I wish I could.
Probably the biggest impact that the pandemic has made on my approach to teaching and learning is the way that it's really challenged me to be creative in the way that I approach assignments, in the way that I engage with my students, in the way that I do all of those things that used to just happen naturally in the face-to-face classroom. I've learned new technologies, I've redesigned assignments, I've thought of new and exciting ways to marshal the opportunities we have in this moment. And that's exciting, even though these are not great times.
The second half of spring semester, we shifted from classroom teaching to online teaching. The shift required me to adjust my teaching approach. I had to learn some new technology, such as how to use Zoom. I taught class and held my office hours on Zoom and used Zoom to share screen to help my students. Technology is great, but sometimes it fails. So I had to be flexible when my students could not submit assignment on time due to any technical issue.
I think it comes down to listening and working together. It's so important to pay attention to what students are telling us, both in word and action, to empathize and to make sure they're getting connected to the multitude of resources we have available. Working together, we can help students realize their potential and provide little nudges along the way to help them learn and grow. Let's communicate, collaborate, and coordinate care so that students can be successful here at NKU.
What's the one thing we should do to help our community this year? What we do best. Continue to provide our students with a world-class education. Every successful business needs first-rate talent, and our community looks to NKU for just that. We need to continue our tradition of preparing our students for success upon graduation, both in the workplace and as members of our larger community.
I believe in this academic year, the most important thing that NKU can do in order to help our faculty is to show empathy and flexibility. NKU has always been like a family to me in the 20 years that I've been here. And now more than ever, we need to understand that our faculty are going through very difficult, stressful times, just like the rest of the country. So a little bit of empathy and flexibility and understanding go a long way.
I want to thank our students, our faculty and staff for sharing their thoughts and perspectives with us. As the events of the past few months unfolded, my family and I spent many an evening grappling with and discussing issues of race and identity. It was 35 years ago, almost to the day, that my journey in this country officially began. First as a student, then as an educator, finally transitioning into a citizen. Along the way, my identity was shaped by being a spouse to Nita and a father to my 2 children. Many Indian Americans tend to think of themselves as apart from the dynamics of racial tension because we're neither black nor white. But separating ourselves does not make us neutral. It makes us complicit. As I assimilated into the dominant culture, I became familiar with the issues of poverty and inequality in the United States. Asian Americans, especially Indian Americans, have been upheld as model minority groups in the US. But this is a myth, and it serves to perpetuate systems of racism and preserve inequities, especially to the detriment of African Americans. The model minority label creates an arbitrary racial ethnic hierarchy amongst immigrants and Blacks in terms of socioeconomic success and failure. It has led some to use the model minority myth to attribute the lack of Black socioeconomic progress on a culture of poverty, rather than on persistent, systemic, economic, and institutionalized racism. So I asked myself, how can I draw on the Indian history of colonization and discrimination towards and among Indians to be a better ally to Black people and other minorities? How is our history connected to Black history? While Blacks were enslaved and segregated in America for 350 years, India was colonized and exploited for about 400 years. My parents were born in colonial India, and it was their generation that served free India. I was fortunate to have been born in post-independence India and offered multiple opportunities and freedom to shape my destiny. So I understand the thirst for freedom and justice. The Black civil rights movement has paralleled the freedom movement in India. Reverend Martin Luther King was inspired by the nonviolent philosophy and strategy of Mahatma Gandhi. On visiting India in 1958, Reverend King stated, "We were looked upon as brothers with the color of our skins as something of an asset. But the strongest bond of fraternity was the common cause of minority and colonial peoples in America, Africa, and Asia, struggling to throw off racialism and imperialism." The Black civil rights movement, with all its hardships and struggle, was able to secure the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This act laid the groundwork for the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. And over the next 50 years, 3.9 million Indian immigrants were admitted to this country. Prior to that, the Immigration Act of 1917 barred immigration from India and most of Asia, and a subsequent Supreme Court case ruled that South Asians were ineligible for naturalized citizenship. So 20 years after the passage of the Immigration and Nationality Act, I was able to migrate to the United States as an international student to pursue my academic goals. I came to this country with a master's degree in hand and social capital in the form of my sister, her husband, and their close-knit group of friends, many of whom had advanced degrees from US and who were well settled in Silicon Valley. I'm immensely grateful for the opportunities afforded me as a graduate student and through my professional career. But I'm not a model minority and should not be used as an exemplar of the American dream, because my circumstances are different from those who came into this country as refugees, undocumented workers, or others with less social capital. But what I have understood is that access to quality education is one key to dismantling systemic racism. For nearly 3 decades, my professional career has been at ASCU institutions, first in California, then in Minnesota, and now at NKU. It's because I believe that NKU, like other ASCU universities, strives to deliver on the American promise of access, affordability, and educational opportunity, with a commitment to serve as a steward of place in our community. We embrace a learning and teaching-centered culture, a historic commitment to underserved students, and a dedication to research, scholarship, and creative activity that advances our region's economic, social, and civic hopes and aspirations. We cannot fulfill that mission without delivering equity and inclusion of diversity. NKU has the privilege of serving students from all backgrounds, each with their own unique story and lived experience. Our task is to challenge these students to expand their worldview, examine critically the values they embrace, and help deepen their understanding of the values required for a democracy to thrive and be sustained. Let me share 2 of our student stories with you today. During the summer prior to the start of his senior year in high school, Cedric Evans attended the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Midwestern Regional Leadership Development Institute. Regent Andre Ward was instrumental in organizing this summer program, and one in which I had the pleasure of welcoming the youth mentees and alumni. Because of his experience at the leadership event, NKU was Cedric's top choice. Actually, his mom shared that NKU was the only school he considered. Leah Stewart, our AVP for financial aid, worked closely with Cedric's mother, and being from Illinois, connected with her on a personal level. Cedric was the recipient of our Educational Diversity Scholarship, along with other forms of aid, when he started as a freshman in the fall of 2019. He was on his NKU alternative spring break with African American student initiatives when he learned that the remainder of the spring semester was going to be conducted remotely. After getting back to campus, Cedric learned that he had to move out of university housing back home to Illinois. Although he had a hard time adjusting to his online classes, Cedric remained committed to seeking tutoring services through Learning Plus. Cedric, who will major in organizational leadership and minor in sociology, finished the spring semester strong and credits the connections and check-ins with Carlos Yates, Director of African American Student Initiatives, Lori Wright, Director of TRIO Student Support Services, and Ray Loftus, Assistant Director for the Center for Student Inclusiveness, as invaluable to his NKU experience. And it was these impacts that led Cedric to want to give back and support students, which he'll do this fall as an NKU Rocks mentor to incoming first-year students. Frankie Montezemi had just finished her latest NKU dance performance this spring before NKU made the switch to virtual courses. As a theater arts major in dance, she had been cast in a summer performance, had additional auditions planned, and was admitted for a residency in New York City. Frankie was a recipient of the $5,100 Excellence Scholarship through all 4 years at NKU. When COVID hit, her summer performance and auditions were canceled, and her residency in New York was postponed until fall 2021. Undeterred, she was determined to make the most of her last semester. Her dance classes, now offered virtually, were not the same. But Frankie credited Professor Tracy Bonner for being supportive, both inside and outside the classroom. Professor Bonner brought in dance experts through Zoom to provide additional interactive virtual performances. Professor Bonner was always checking in with her students. When Frankie shared that she was concerned about her financial situation, Professor Bonner encouraged her to apply for the Federal CARES Act emergency funding. These funds helped Frankie focus on finishing her academics, and she graduated magna cum laude in May. While she awaits a residency in New York, Frankie is working and saving money for the move and engaging in virtual classes and online experiences, as she says, to keep art alive. Given the circumstances of spring semester, Cedric's successful journey to his second year at NKU, and Frankie's culmination of her undergraduate experience are especially noteworthy accomplishments. We're making good progress on our overall retention rate as well as graduation rates, although we have more work ahead of us. Take a look at the trend in our fall to fall retention of first-year students. We are on track to achieving the highest year-over-year retention ever at close to 75%, up nearly 3% from last year. However, our URM retention rates are still not where they need to be. And there is still time to reach out and connect with our students, particularly our URM students, to encourage them to persist and return for their sophomore year. When looking at the class that entered NKU in the fall of 2013, we see that nearly 48% of those students graduated within 6 years. While there is still room for a great deal of improvement, it is the first time we have approached 50% in the last decade. While we need to focus on closing achievement gaps, we have achieved institutional highs for our URM students in their 6-year graduation rates as well. And as you can see, last year, we conferred over 3,000 degrees and credentials, the first time since 2014-15 that we have done so. As I reflect back on the year, I am filled, as I hope you are, with a profound sense of pride and optimism for all that we have accomplished together. During the Spring Open Forum, I said that success by design and our vision to become an even more student-ready, regionally engaged university was as relevant as ever. This year, we need to focus on the following 3 endeavors. Number 1, engagement and well-being. We have endured a period of tremendous stress, anxiety, sadness, anger, and frustration. As we move forward with fulfilling our mission to serve students and the region, we must do so with even greater compassion and care for our students, for each other, and towards society as a whole. Zoom has allowed me to check in with various offices and groups during the past 5 months, something I plan to continue doing through the fall semester. In addition, we will have campus conversations around key topics during the semester. I urge you to let us know what questions and concerns are on your mind as we begin this unusual academic year. You may post your thoughts through the chat feature today or via email if you prefer. As a university, we have done our best to ensure NKU remains a source of community, of support for our students during these stressful months of historic change. At the same time, we recognize that there is so much more needs to be done. It is with that in mind that I announce a presidential initiative for student mental health, aimed at enhancing the mental health and wellness of our learners. This initiative will explore innovative ways to connect students with the help they need, providing early and ongoing support to prevent problems from escalating to crisis levels, and assisting them in dealing with the uncertainty characterizing these present days. This effort will be spearheaded by the university's Mental Health Advisory Group, consisting of faculty, staff, students, community volunteers, and subject matter experts in various fields related to mental health. I'm pleased to inform you that the co-chairs of this group will be Dr. Christopher Lawrence, Professor of Counseling and Director of the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Program, and Dr. Neeta Vaidya, for whom student wellness is a personal passion. I have charged this group with building awareness about the mental health resources available at NKU and assessing gaps and unmet needs in the services offered to students. They will develop a 3-year plan around areas of priority need, using evidence-based practices and success metrics. Finally, I've asked them to solicit partnerships and external support for key initiatives directed at addressing the stressors our students face. The Mental Health Advisory Group has created what we're calling the NKU Levels of Care, a visual depiction of the tiers of mental health and wellness services that exist on campus. Its purpose is twofold. First, it provides students with an accessible guide illustrating the variety of support options available to them. And second, it serves as a touchstone for the university's mental health improvement efforts, a vehicle for identifying the things we do well, along with the areas that could benefit from further attention. You may be aware that the university's Health, Counseling, and Student Wellness Office will offer therapy in person and via telehealth this fall. What you may not know is that more than half of the university's police department has been trained to serve as crisis intervention team officers. Crisis intervention team training is provided through a state-sponsored course that educates law enforcement officials on techniques for identifying mental health issues and safely and effectively interacting with people struggling with these issues. The University Police Department's goal is for all officers to receive the training. In coming weeks, the advisory group will be examining ways to make mental health and wellness a more visible part of campus life, exploring methods for improving the university's online mental health resources in conjunction with the Healthy at NKU model, and reaching out to campus and community partners to enhance overall services. To support these endeavors, the advisory group will be sending out a brief survey intended to gain a better sense of our campus's recognition of the mental health services already offered at NKU. I encourage you to take part, as your responses will inform the efforts undertaken as part of this initiative. Doing so will pave the way for NKU's participation in the Healthy Mind Study, a national endeavor developed to generate data on the most effective ways of investing in the mental health of university students. It is an investment in student success that must be made to provide our students a genuine opportunity to learn and afford them a chance to grow as scholars and citizens of the world. Our second major endeavor this year will be on advancing equity and inclusion of diversity. This year, we're moving forward in exciting and intentional ways to advance this work. Several of these initiatives came as a result of ideas proposed by faculty, staff, and students, including members of our Black Alumni Council. It has been uplifting to see the energy and resolve in making NKU an even more welcoming community. 2 new programs for the class of 2024 have already been launched. A Common Read experience, a collection of articles and a podcast no less, will be offered to nearly 80% of our entering first-year class, as well as a unique project being undertaken in the Honors First-Year Seminar course called The Humans of Greater Cincinnati. For the Common Read program, a group of faculty and staff determined a set of readings for the first-year students, along with learning goals. With the help from Darryl Peel and the Center for Teaching and Learning, faculty can think about how they can further explore the readings in their respective classes. Additional opportunities through lunch and learn talks will be offered for sustained engagement throughout the year. Thanks to funding through the President's Venture Fund, established by a gift from the Schmid Lab Trust at Fifth Third Bank, the NKU Honors College and NKU Rocks, our African American Student Initiative's signature first-year program, are piloting the Humans of Greater Cincinnati project as part of a first-year experience for nearly 60 incoming students, 21 of whom are in the NKU Rocks program. Students in the pilot will receive iPads, which they will use to take photographs, shoot videos, conduct interviews, and create narratives that capture human experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 election, the current climate of social and political protest, and more. Students will learn the fundamentals of community-based learning and research, and they will connect where they came from, both practically and intellectually, with the world that they will enter upon enrolling at NKU. They will evaluate regional needs, consider issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and imagine the future that may grow out of our turbulent times. Students have been engaged in this project prior to their arrival at NKU. They've been asked to take a photograph and tell a story in 150 words or less with the topic #JourneyToNKU. Students and faculty in the project will be meeting virtually as a group during the first week of classes, and some of the stories will be posted to the Instagram page that has been created for the Humans of Greater Cincinnati project. The Inclusive Excellence Council is putting the finishing touches to our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals for the 3 pillars of access, completion, and career and community engagement. Those will be reviewed and approved by the end of the fall semester. Last Friday, the Board of Regents, in a special meeting, approved the policy for implementing the new Title IX regulations issued recently by the Department of Education. And we are initiating diversity and inclusion training for faculty, staff, administrators, and students. We are revising our biased incident response protocol. The protocol advances NKU's commitment to create and maintain a university climate free of discrimination and to promote a learning and living environment for students, administrators, faculty, and staff that is safe, inclusive, welcoming, and respectful. And finally, we're convening the regional college and university chief diversity officers to leverage the resources of the 8 participating institutions to create a more equitable and inclusive Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky community. More about that initiative will be forthcoming. Finally, our third endeavor this year will be on financial sustainability. The unresolved pension issue, unknown impact on the state budget, and the onset of the pandemic has added even more pressure and uncertainty to our fiscal situation. We made the painful decision to initiate temporary layoffs and salary reductions for a significant portion of our faculty and staff, a sacrifice for which I'm deeply grateful. But it was important to preserve the talent we have and avoid any permanent reductions in workforce at this time. This year will call for us to find a reasonable resolution to the pension challenge, manage our ongoing expenses and costs related to COVID-19, seek efficiencies in the use of our resources and operations, and explore revenue-generating ideas. However, we must not ignore the need for strategic investments to accelerate innovation in student success and regional engagement. With the changing landscape of higher education, NKU needs to be innovative in how it serves and meets the lifelong learning needs of diverse learners. As the region looks to recover from the economic effects of the pandemic, we have an opportunity to provide pathways through regional business and industry partnerships that will lead to the timely completion of the educational goals of many adults and post-traditional learners. We are therefore launching an initiative that advances regional engagement through work education partnerships with business and industry groups. The scope of this initiative, NKU's version of upskilling for the region's workforce, will involve business, community organizations, individuals, and industry partners. This joint effort between academic affairs and advancement, and led by Shelley Walter, Andy Durajaya, and Sam Langley, builds on the success of the NKU ION Apex pathway for those in the electrical trades industry. We will develop opportunities for industries and individuals to earn micro-credentials all the way to degree completion pathways, and will engage departments and colleges during the course of this year to launch this revenue-generating initiative. About a month ago, I read a New York Times interview with Lonnie Bunch III, the Secretary of the Smithsonian Museums, overseeing the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which he founded, as well as a dozen other museums and libraries, and even the National Zoo. He was asked what the purpose of museums was in the face of the pandemic and protests. Mr. Bunch said, "I believe very strongly that museums have a social justice role to play, to use history, science, and education to give the public tools to grapple with the challenges we face. I'm expecting museums to be driven by scholarship and the community. I want museums to be a place that gives the public not just what it wants, but what it needs." When he was asked about who decides what is appropriate to display and how history should be presented, he said, "It's crucially important to have diversity, not just of race or ethnicity, but of ideas, to make sure that cultural institutions are grappling with interesting questions that help the public. So the challenge is for museums to live up to what they say they are, places that should model and reflect the best of what they expect from other Americans." It struck me that in many ways, akin to museums, our mission and purpose is to model and reflect the best of what we expect from the rest of America. NKU must shape the future of the region, the nation, and the world, and help define our role in it. My hope is that we'll see a post-COVID world where decisions will be informed by science and thoughtful policy, where we reclaim the lost art of communication and respectful dialogue, and where we see a more just and equitable world. Higher education remains the surest path to economic and social upward mobility for all learners, and particularly for low-income, first-generation, and underrepresented students. And regionally engaged institutions like NKU play a crucial role in engaging and advocating for the values that will ensure a thriving democracy. We have a responsibility to help create this more humane, enlightened, and interconnected world. As the late John Lewis wrote in his final essay, democracy is not a state, it is an act, and each generation must do its part to help build what we call the beloved community, a nation and world society at peace with itself. As a learning organization, we learn from our past, recommit to the work we must do in the present, and help create a better future. I too have learned a great deal during the past several months, some of it more personal. So I thought I should share some of that with you today. So as Fall Convocation tradition now demands, and once again, in the spirit of David Letterman's Top 10, I give you, literally from my home office, the top 10 things I learned during the pandemic. Here we go. Number 10, Coco is not the best coworker. Number 9, Zoom fatigue and webinar overload are real. I think I logged in 545 hours of Zoom meetings and watched 17 webinars on how to open the campus safely. Number 8, 3 months is too long without a haircut. You know, I knew it was time to get one when a regent remarked, "Mr. President, your hair sure looks a little gnarly." Yeah, it's getting up there right now, isn't it? Number 7, while we could not always agree on what shows to watch, the entire Vaidya household loved watching Hamilton.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Number 6, I rediscovered my fondness for baking, except this time I took the easy way out with some bake-at-home goodies from some of my favorite places. Oh. Number 5, Nita was not too thrilled to have me at home so much. Number 4, there seems to be some controversy about wearing masks. And some stores have come up with innovative ways to encourage wearing them. Number 3, you know you have arrived when you're worthy of being trolled on Twitter. Number 2, yes, the economy is struggling, but we have created some new jobs. Mask enforcer, a social distancing event planner, and a White House medical information interpreter. And the number one thing I learned during the pandemic is that NKU's capacity for change, care for community, and resilience in a pandemic is both prodigious and amazing. I am truly in awe of NKU's spirit and resilience. Maya Angelou reminded us that you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. We will be tested and challenged this academic year like never before. But I have immense optimism about our capacity to move forward and continue with our quest to serve the public good. This optimism about NKU's future is fundamentally based on you, the people I have the privilege to work with. On that note, I cannot wait until next Monday when the fall semester officially begins. It will not be as alive and busy with the comings and goings of our students as in years past, but so many will be back, and it will be good to see them. After all, they are why we are here. Please remember to take care of yourselves and remember the Norse 9, especially the one that says, Norse protects Norse, with care, kindness, and respect for each other. Thank you once again for all that you do every day to support our university. I'm honored and privileged to be our president and to be of service to this great university. Have a wonderful week, and I wish you a successful, safe, and rewarding semester.
Please welcome 4 May 2020 graduates from the School of the Arts, performing NKU's alma mater. Haley Gilman, Sally Modzaleski, Madison Sullivan, and Kian Steele.
Northern, let your vision lead us, hearts of women, men, and youth. Help us seek the higher virtues, guide us to the greater truth. Northern, Northern, alma mater, may our lives enrich your name, and in time leave us your children, better far than when we came.
That concludes NKU's 2020 Fall Convocation. Thank you for joining us, and on behalf of the entire university, I wish you a wonderful year.